Today's story comes from a woman we'll call Claire. She manages 4 restaurants. She knows exactly what a $420 bottle of wine costs. She knows what 14 people ordering lobster and Wagyu beef looks like on a ticket. She also knows what it looks like when a family has been planning something for a very long time. On a Thursday evening in Columbus, Ohio, Claire walked into a restaurant called The Ashford. She ordered sparkling water, and then she waited. This is what happened next.
My name is Claire Hartwell. I'm 32 years old. I'm the Regional Operations Director for a restaurant group. 4 locations, combined seating for over 800, and a team I've built from the ground up over 11 years. I started at 17. Hostess, then server, then floor manager, then regional director at 24. I say this not to brag. I say this because you need to understand that I know exactly how restaurants work. I know how checks are split. I know how reservations are booked. I know which tables are reserved for difficult conversations. And I know immediately when something is wrong. Pauses. My family has called me the bank since I was 19. My father, Gerald Sutton, is 61. He's a contractor. He's built his entire identity on the idea that he provides. Except that he hasn't. Not really, since I was old enough to have a paycheck. He doesn't see it that way. In his version of the story, he raised a successful daughter. In my version, I raised myself, and then kept paying for the privilege of being his. My mother, Evelyn, is the strategist. She doesn't ask for things directly. She creates situations. She makes you feel like helping is just what good people do. She's been doing it for 30 years. She's very good at it. My sister Amber is 27. She had a coffee shop idea. 18 months ago, she asked me to co-sign an $80,000 business loan. I said no. I said no because I'd watched her start and abandon 3 other projects. I said no because co-signing a loan means I'm responsible if she defaults. I said no because I am a regional operations director and I understand what the margins on a coffee shop look like. She cried. My mother called it a betrayal. My father said I was selfish. I said I loved Amber and I hoped the business went well. The coffee shop lasted 11 months. Then came the silence. 2.5 years of it. Pauses. 6 weeks ago, my mother texted me. I think it's time we talked. I miss my daughter. Dinner Thursday. Just the 4 of us. The Ashford at 7. I stared at that message for a long time. The Ashford is not a restaurant you choose for a casual reconciliation. It's the kind of place with a sommelier and a leather-bound wine list and entrees that start at $80. But I told myself, maybe she means it. Maybe 2.5 years was long enough. Maybe things were different now. I texted back, I'll be there. Pauses. I arrived at 7:04. I gave my name to the host. He smiled and said, Of course, the Sutton party is already seated. The Sutton party. I followed him through the restaurant. The table was in the back corner. Private. The kind of table you request specifically when you don't want to be seen. I counted before I even sat down. My mother, my father, Amber, and then 11 other people. Aunt Carol, Uncle Frank, 3 cousins, 2 cousins' spouses, my grandmother, 2 people I didn't recognize at all, 14 people. I stood at the edge of the table. My mother said, Oh, sweetheart, we thought it would be nice to make it a real family dinner. Surprise. My father was already holding the wine list. I sat down. I picked up the menu. I said nothing. Pauses. For the next 40 minutes, I watched my family order. Lobster, Wagyu beef, a $420 bottle of Bordeaux, 2014, Grand Cru, appetizers, desserts, sides. My Aunt Carol ordered a second entree for the table. The 2 people I didn't recognize ordered the most expensive items on the menu without hesitation. I ordered sparkling water. Marcus, our server, young, maybe 20, clearly new, came back twice to make sure I didn't want anything else. I told him I was fine. My father made a toast. To family, to second chances, to the people who show up when it counts. He looked at me when he said that last part. I raised my glass of water. Pauses. At the 40-minute mark, I excused myself to use the restroom. The hallway to the restrooms passed the server station. As I walked by, I noticed a phone on the counter. Screen lit up. Amber's phone. She'd set it down when she went to refill her drink at the bar. The notification on the screen said, "Dinner plan. 8 new messages." I stopped walking. I want to be clear about something. I did not pick up her phone. I did not unlock it. The messages were visible on the locked screen preview. All I did was read what was already there. The first message was from my father, sent 3 days ago. "She won't make a scene in public. Just order what you want. She'll cover it to avoid the embarrassment." The second was from Amber. "I feel bad. What if she actually can't afford it?" My father's response: "She manages 4 restaurants. She can afford it." My mother: "We're not doing anything wrong. She owes this family. We've given her everything." There were 4 more messages. I didn't need to read them. Pauses. I stood in that hallway for 90 seconds. Not because I was deciding why. I was 3 blocks away when my phone started ringing. My father. I let it go to voicemail. Then Amber. Voicemail. Then my mother. 3 times in a row. I turned off my phone and drove home. Pauses. I found out what happened from Sophie. My cousin Megan's daughter, 23, the only person at that table who texted me an apology the next morning. According to Sophie, Marcus presented the check to my father approximately 8 minutes after I left. The table went quiet. My father opened the folio. Sophie said she could see the number from across the table, $4,200 and change, before tip. My father reached for his wallet. He put down his card with the confidence of a man who had been planning this moment for weeks. Marcus ran it. He came back to the table. He leaned down and said quietly that the card had been declined. My father said there must be a mistake. Marcus said he could try again. He tried again. Declined. My father tried a second card. Declined. A third card. Declined. Pauses. Sophie said the table was completely silent by then. The 2 people nobody recognized, friends of Amber's apparently, people who had never met me, were staring at the tablecloth. My father said, still very quietly, "There must be a problem with the system." James, the floor manager, came over personally at that point. James was professional. James was calm. James said the restaurant would be happy to accept cash, or any alternative card, but that unfortunately they would need some form of payment before the table could be released for the evening. My mother started crying. Amber said, and Sophie heard this clearly, "I knew this would happen." My father left the table and made 3 phone calls outside. When he came back, he sat down and said nothing for several minutes. Eventually, my grandmother, who is 81 years old and had been sitting quietly through all of it, opened her purse. She placed her debit card on the table. She said, "I'll handle it." And she did. Pauses. The next morning, I had 27 missed calls and 14 text messages. My father's first message said, "You embarrassed this entire family." My mother's said, "I hope you're happy with yourself." Amber's said, "I never thought you were capable of something like this." I read all of them. I didn't respond to any of them. Then I did something I should have done 2.5 years ago. I removed myself from the family group chat. Pauses. 6 weeks have passed. I had a session with Dr. Okafor, my therapist, 3 days after the dinner. I told him everything. He asked me one question. He said, "When you walked out of the Ashford, what did you feel?" I thought about it for a long time. I said, "Nothing at first." And then, something I can only describe as clean. He nodded. He said that sometimes the healthiest thing a person can do is refuse to participate in a story that was written for them by someone else. Pauses. I've thought about that a lot since. My father did lose his contracting business. Sophie told me that, 18 months before the dinner, apparently, which explains the declined cards. My mother has been working at a dental office. Amber is a receptionist now, at a medical clinic downtown. I don't say this with satisfaction. I don't say it with grief either. I say it because I want to be clear. I didn't plan any of that. I didn't cause any of that. The only thing I did was refuse to absorb consequences that weren't mine. The only thing I did was order sparkling water. Pauses. Sophie's message, the apology, said, "I'm sorry, Claire. I didn't know what they were planning. I thought it really was a family dinner. For what it's worth, I watched you that night and I thought you were the most dignified person in that room." I saved that message. I didn't respond, but I saved it. Maybe someday I'll have coffee with Sophie. Maybe I won't. What I know is this. I walked into the Ashford as someone's bank. I walked out as myself. That's a better deal than anything on that menu.
So what was Claire's story really about? Not Lobster, not a declined credit card, not even a family that used her. It was about something psychologists call the identified benefactor. It's a role that gets assigned quietly over years in families where financial anxiety runs the show. One person becomes the solution, and once you're the solution, every request stops being a request. It becomes an expectation, and every boundary you draw gets reframed as a betrayal. Pauses. Here's what Claire understood that took her years to learn. Generosity is only generosity when it's a choice. The moment your family starts planning group chats about how to make sure you pay, it's no longer generosity. It's a transaction, and you're the only one who didn't get a receipt. She didn't yell. She didn't expose the group chat at the dinner table. She didn't make a scene. She ordered sparkling water. She tipped her server 35%, and she let the math do the rest. There's a word for that kind of quiet. It's not weakness. It's not even patience. It's precision. Pauses. Have you ever been the bank for your family? The one everyone calls when things go wrong? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. And next week's story? A woman who discovered her late mother's will had been changed 3 weeks before she died. The handwriting on the new version didn't match anything in 30 years of birthday cards. You won't believe what the forensic expert found. Subscribe so you don't miss it.